In these verses, Guruji says that because God is priceless, those who serve God also become priceless. Amul gun, amul vapar. Priceless are God's infinite gun, His infinite virtues. These virtues, the treasure of God's virtues, is God's name. Sai naam amol, keem na koi jaan do. Naam, the nidhan, the treasure of God's virtues, is amol, or priceless. Keem na koi jaan do. Nobody can place a value upon it. Amul gun, amul vapar. And priceless is the trade of God's name. Amul vaparye, amul pandar. Those who trade or do vapar and thus become vaparye of God's name, they also become amul, or priceless. Amul pandar. And priceless is the treasure of God's name. Through Gurbani, Guruji explains, Tanvant naam ke vanjare. Tanvant, blessed or full of wealth are those who do vanjar, or trade of God's name. How do they do this? Sanji karo naam tan khato. Through reciting God's name, they earn the wealth of God's name. Gurka sabad vichare. And in this way, they reflect upon the Guru's sabad. Chodo kapat hoye nirvaira, so prab sang nihare. They consider God to always be present, and thus they leave all corruption. This is how they do the true trade. Sach tan vanjo. They trade in the true wealth. Sach tan sancho. They collect the true wealth. Kabhu na avo hare. And in this way, they never lose. Khat kharchat kich ne khutit nahi. By consuming this wealth, nothing is lost. It only accumulates more. Aganat pare pandare. And countless treasures are filled. Through Gurbani, we learn that the wealth of God's name is priceless. The more we consume it, the more it becomes. It is not like worldly wealth. Khave kharche ral mil pai, tot na ave vad do jai. Guruji says, O my brothers, come collect the wealth of God's name. Come consume this wealth. Tot na ave. There will not be a shortage. Vad do jai. It will only continue to increase. In this way, kaho Nanak, soba sang javo. With the wealth of God's name, enter God's chamber with honor. Par Brahm ke dware. Amul ave. Those who come on the path of Naam, on the path of coming, collecting this wealth, they become priceless. Amul la jahe. And they take the priceless wealth with them. Amul pae, amulla samahe. Priceless is the pae, or the love of God. Amulla samahe. And through this priceless wealth, we become priceless because we merge, or we samahe. We reach the state of samana with God. Amul taram. Priceless is the religion of God's name. Amul diban. And priceless is God's diban, or God's justice. Amul tul, amul parvan. God's tul, or God's scale, is priceless. Through Gurbani, we learn of a scale by which God measures our actions. We may consider ourselves to be righteous, but in the court of God, God measures our righteousness against parvan, or weights, counterweights. In the Asa Divar, Guru Nanak Dev Ji explains, sabko pura ape hove, kat na koi aakhe. In this world, we all claim to be complete. We all claim to be practicers of religion. Kat na koi aakhe. Nobody considers himself to be less. Pat parvana pichhe paiye. But the true honor is weighed after life. Ta nanak tolya jape. And when these deeds are truly measured on God's priceless scale, then we will learn of our true righteousness. Amul tul, Amul parvan. Amul baksis, Amul nisan. Priceless is God's baksis, or His grace, Amul nisan. And priceless is the nisan, or the insignia that is placed on our mastak when we walk the path of God. Through Gurbani, we learn Jap Mukand Mastak Nisanu. By reciting God's name, we earn the nisan, or the insignia, upon our forehead. Amul Karam, Amul Furman. Priceless is God's karam, or His grace, because only through His karam do we come to recite God's name. Karme mila akhan tera naam. By your grace, we come to recite your name. Amul Furman. And priceless is God's Furman, or God's orders. Amullo Amul Akhya na jai. The priceless nature of God cannot be fully stated. It cannot be fully described. Aakh aakh rahe, live lie. However, by reciting it, by reciting God's praises, by reciting the infinite God's praises, live lie, our consciousness becomes attuned to Him. We will not be able to find God's end, but by reciting God's praises, we will achieve the state of live lie. Just as the streams become one with the ocean, we achieve live, but amullo amul akhya na jai. We will never still be able to describe God's vastness. Aakhain Ved Path Puran. The Hindu scriptures, the Ved, the Path, the Puran, they all speak of God. Aakhain Pade Kare Vakhyan. And those who read these scriptures and reflect upon them, they also speak of God. Aakhain Barme, Aakhain Ind. Brahma and Indra, they also speak of God. Aakhain Gopi Te Govind. The milkmaids or the Gopiyan and their master Govind or Krishna, they also speak of God. Aakhain Isar, Aakhain Sid. Isar and Sid, Hindu god Isar and the Sids, the great spiritualists, they also speak of God. Aakhain Kete Kite Buddh. And the many Buddhas that are created by God also speak of Him. Aakhain Danav, Aakhain Dev. The Danav or the demons and the Dev or the gods and goddesses, they also speak of God. Aakhain Sur, Nar, Mun, Jan, Sev. The Sur or the heroes, the Nar, the men, the Mun, the people who commit to a vow of silence, Janasev, the people who do humble service, they also speak of God. Kete Aakhain Aakhan Pahe. How many are there that speak of God? Kete Keh Keh Ut Ut Jahe. Many speak of God and then leave the world. However, Guruji says, Ete Kite Hor Kare. You have created this many. Ete Kite Hor Kare. Even if you create more, even if you double this creation, Ta Aakh Nasake Kei Ke. They will still not be able to fully describe you. They will never be able to find your infinity. They will never be able to find your end. Why? Jevard pave, tevard hoy. However big you wish to become, that is how big you become. We learn that je sab milke aakhan pahe, vada na hove, kaat na jaye. If everybody in the world got together and spoke of God, vada na hoye, kaat na jaye. He would neither grow bigger nor smaller. Jevard pave, tevard hoye. However bigger he desires, he becomes. Nanak jane, sacha soy. Only the true Lord knows of his greatness. However, je ko aakhe bol vigard. If anybody commits bol vigard or says that which should not be said, if anybody claims to know God's end, taan likhiye sir gavara gavar. He should be considered a fool among fools because he claimed to know God's end. Through Gurbani, we learn that God is infinite and his end can never be known. How much ever we say, there is more to be said. Thus, through these ankhs, Guruji tells us to humbly praise God and achieve oneness with him, yet never claim to know God's end. Let's sing the next verses together.